Sabrina, the Shamanic Witch Psychic Healer here. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, thank you for being part of the Casting Cauldron Coven or Casting Cauldron crew. I guess I'm going to have something of a coven when I get my Patreon completed. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, is that I am writing down and creating videos for my Patreon that I will be uploading and working on in the new year, in January. But I cannot work on my little Chromebook, so I have to go to the library until I can get a laptop with a bigger screen. I've got my coffee here because I do tend to talk a little bit more. For those of you who have been following me, I have been really growing by leaps and bounds with new information regarding psychism. Most of my life, I have been trained to meditate, to speak to myself, to visualize, and to learn about affirmations. And from there, I seem to be led to learn about dream work and working on the astral plane. It is a long, long story about how I have grown from a sensitive person born with Pisces rising at 29 degrees, which is a double-edged sword. And I've had to learn to use it carefully and at my advantage. It's also made me overly helpful, right, an enabler, and caring and trusting with others. In this world, there are givers and there are takers. It is the giver's job to learn when to give and when to take. That is how we preserve our energy and our self-respect. I have been going through something since spring of this year, in March. And while I began to talk about it in the summer, I'm not sure if somebody was actually watching me. Somehow, some way, someone, perhaps they knew. I was sharing some of what was happening because I was thrown for a loop. This has taught me a whole new dimension about dream work. Now, I've been led to learn about psychic protection. But as I've recently shared, I lived in a haunted house where my psychic protection, while I was sleeping in my bedroom, wasn't necessarily enough. There were some outside influences and noises that were disrupting my sleep. And in fact, you can live with someone who is purposely disrupting your sleep. And I talked about that as well. What I want to start with today is I'm being prompted to remember an episode on Charmed. A few years back, as I was raising my teenage daughter before she moved away, we had been purchasing CDs of television shows like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Charmed. My daughter was all about it. She was in it with me. She has psychic, energetic abilities herself. She is a Scorpio. I've seen what she can do energy-wise. And she reminds me of Prue. So I'm really not that worried about her. Plus, she's taken a couple of my books that I can't find them, so I think if she took them and she's been reading them, then that's good. So we would go to this store that would buy, sell, and trade, and we would purchase the new seasons of Charmed, and we eventually had them all. We did not have cable, and at that time we did not yet have casting to the TV. We were watching free, I think we were watching free Hulu. Hulu at the time was free, and you could watch old shows and old episodes. I was newly divorced, and my energy was very freed up. I was just very happy to do my 2 regular jobs and be, you know, on my own and finishing raising my daughter. But we would sit and we would watch shows, and one of them was we'd pop in the CDs in the CD player in my 32-inch Vizio LCD TV to watch Charmed, and I've watched every single episode at least twice. There are several episodes that really stuck out to me, and one of them was called Dream Sorcerer. And since I'm very much in dreams in the astral plane and astral traveling, which I've never ever done to try to harm anyone, this episode called Dream Sorcerer I thought was very strange, but also very fascinating. Prue is very strong mentally, okay, like telepathy, I think is what they say is her power, but I think it is just a very strong ability to exert her will through her thoughts and project it. It's very strong. Okay? Thought projection. This is her power. Reminds me of my daughter. And Spirit has been giving me this to let me know it wasn't all me having to examine what's wrong with me. No. Prue had become overworked and overly tired. And she became vulnerable to psychic attack. And I've recently talked about psychic bindings and psychic attack. And it happens in many different ways. We don't realize we're not taught. And one of the things I'm going to be teaching are terms and red flags and how to deal with toxic behaviors. And how to deal with people calling you a bitch because you're putting up boundaries and you don't want to get in the middle of shit. I'm not an owl. I'm not a pigeon. And don't turn me into a flying monkey. But Prue, her psychic defenses were down, just like I talked about in my recent video from the haunted house. My psychic defenses in that particular place had gotten weakened through sleep deprivation, and Prue was suffering some sleep deprivation. She wasn't really able to sleep well or sleep enough. And so she probably wasn't doing any of her psychic things either, like me just lighting a candle and looking at the candle flame, okay? She went to a nightclub to meet her sister. And while she was there to meet her sister or wait for somebody else, a young man sent a drink over, and she politely refused it. No, thank you. This was a very unstable young man. He was in a wheelchair. And because of that, his other senses had gotten stronger, right? That goes along with some other new information that I have learned recently that I will be sharing on my Patreon. This young man got it in his head that he was going to get back at her. It was all about revenge. It wasn't about putting a love spell or a love binding spell to win her, to get her. It was simply about revenge. His ego was bruised and he sought to destroy her. How dare you refuse a drink from me? I'm sorry. But this is part of what happens with these unstable personalities. If I don't drink, I'm going to get hoarse. All right. If you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. My friend came over to visit today. And without getting off on a tangent too much, she's been hearing me go through my situation and how confused I've been until just recently, as I've been working my way out of it, getting stronger, protecting my physical body from actually being tapped into or drained from. So when Prue finally did go to sleep, this young man would enter her dreams and basically torture her. The feelings and the imagery was so real that she would actually wake up and have physical residual leftover markings of what she felt he had done while he was there in her sleep, in the astral plane, in the dream world, the spiritual world. This continued for quite some time as Prue was wrestling with what was happening and still, having to do all of these responsibilities, primarily with her work, and becoming very, very taxed mentally, of course, energetically then as well, and very susceptible to more and more and more of these dream invasions where this man sought to destroy her. I had researched who were the writers and come across some articles. How do they get this information? And what I found out was that the writers were consulting with people who were actual witches and Wiccans, male witches, female witches, high priests, high priestesses, in order to get real accurate information for their stories and their storylines. Then, of course, they would modify them. So Prue just didn't have the energy to project her mental projection and her will to push this man off of her in the beginning, because she simply didn't understand, I think, what's going on. As the dreams continued, we saw in the storyline that this young man had been part of a sleep study program, and he was going into a laboratory with a doctor who was attaching things to his head. And this was enhancing his psychic ability, so that when he did go to sleep and they were reading his, sleep patterns and his sleep rhythms, and when he was going into alpha or beta or theta or delta, and I suppose he was getting paid, I don't know, but he was actually using this technology to enhance his dream work and his astral projection. I think radionics machines can be used for this purpose. And anyone who is doing this to influence someone against their will is very, 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 very sad, because I've suffered a lot. Let's go back to the story. As she's sharing, she has two sisters she can share with. Thank goodness. Each one is having their own storyline. You know, even Phoebe did a love spell for a new lover, I guess, and she got one at a bar one night, and so then she realizes he's not for her. And eventually, Prue is led to understand that she needs to mentally project her will when this man shows up in her dreams. And it's not easy. She suffers a lot. And he says a lot of horrible, hurtful things. And, you know, even she's feeling the physical presence and the physical touch, and she is seeing his face. So at one point she finally realizes, I'm pretty sure this is the guy that I refused the drink from at the bar, right? I have to be able to go back and watch it again. But I know there were quite a few dreams, and she keeps, I think, being encouraged to get more rest and to use her will. And at one point in the final dream, where he shows up and he's really dead set on trying to kill her and completely destroy her, she's able to make him feel things physically. She takes scissors and stabs him, and he pushes her in the chair, and then he asks her, if you fall over the roof of a building in a dream, do you die? And I think she says, I don't know. But you can tell that she's drained. She's affected. She's still weak. She isn't rested and recovered enough yet. But she finally musters up enough will, not only for her, but maybe even her sisters, if he's threatened to go after her sisters. I don't remember. If you remember, please comment down below. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I'm not getting any comments. I don't know who's watching really. I know that people are understandably afraid to get caught up in the algorithm and start getting recommendations for other channels. They want to remain anonymous because they're searching and they're studying. And I hope you're here for the right reasons. But if you've seen the episode, I'd like to know if you've seen it or if you know anything about this. She finally musters up all of her power and she projects her thoughts, her will through her thoughts, and just pushes him off, away from her so hard he falls off the side of the building. And the next scene we see is he's in the laboratory on the sleep machine and he flatlines. Now that, I think, is put in by the writers. I don't believe you do actually die. I don't know of any incidences where you do. I guess some people perhaps might feel that it's truly real, but generally it's just you wake up. Now, your spiritual body is affected, and then your mental body is affected, your energy is affected, your physical body is affected. And one reason that Prue was having trouble regaining her energy is I don't think that she was really spending enough time doing certain things that would strengthen her inner body. Okay? There are some things I've learned that work, and there's other things that you think might work and they don't. Many people claim that they know how to psychically protect themselves from these types of things, and they simply don't work. Okay? I'm here to tell you this is what was happening to me. over the summer. And it wasn't to torture me. It was to make me believe I was in some type of a romantic relationship with someone that I didn't know a thing in the world about. And because I've been single and alone now for 3 years, and I sometimes get very frustrated and tired from work, and I wasn't lighting a candle, and I had stopped communing with my spirit guides and my ancestors and Astarte, I had a weakened shield. And especially as I was outside on my patio, just completely resigned to laying there doing nothing and looking up at the stars after I'd been through the job from hell at the Dollar Tree with a ridiculous manager who wouldn't let me do my job and kept scheduling me as a cashier and was calling me to come in and cashier when I told her that's not my job, and lying to me that so-and-so had COVID. And I just talked to her about people who lie about having COVID. And then the person came in and said, no, I don't have COVID. I thought, okay, strike 3, lady. And there was some other disrespect that was going on towards me that she did not step in and defend me. In fact, was blaming me. And this is what I feel Spirit has been telling me, that you have a great many things that you still didn't quite learn yet about psychic protection, Sabrina. And as I've been following a psychic tarot reader for the past couple of months, she says a lot of things that resonate with me. I passed a test, Spirit's proud of me, I am protected, I am being helped, and that this is part of my mission. And that not only that, I've graduated to a new level and I'm now like a master, and I can truly teach about another thing that I've been through regarding psychism and protecting your mental health, okay? I've learned a lot about kitchen witchery and how to help my body physically, but our psychic thoughts, that's our spiritual life. And when people are messing with you energetically and entering your dream state, they've been able to tap into you. And I have learned how they do that. And that these people have personality imbalances. And that you need to learn quite a lot of things. You need to learn terms, you need to learn red flags to recognize things like I did, but you also need to learn how to constantly rejuvenate your body and your mind and your energetic body. We're talking about metaphysics, okay? We're talking about spiritual things, your thoughts. And it's not just about talking to yourself, all right? Through it all, I have gotten wiser and stronger, which is what I'm trying to say. And I have been led to start a Patreon so that I can share this with others. And if you become a member, I want you to stay tuned, because if you become a member, for $3 a month, you'll start to learn some of these things. I'll also be giving psychic energy techniques that truly work, okay? Because I've done it. In shamanism, we suffer the disease, and then we are led by Spirit to learn how to purge it. And many times, as a shamanic healer, we have to connect to someone. We take on someone's illness, and then we're able to see their trauma, and then we purge from ourselves. Now, recently I had a dream where I was seeing through someone's eyes, and what I did was reconnect to Astarte. I did a spell, I called on her and asked her to help. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I don't know really what to do. I've done a couple of cord cuttings already. And it has helped reveal some truths, all right, about what's been going on these past months. But when this is happening from a stranger, you don't know what is going on in their life, personal or otherwise. So these cord cuttings were helping me see what was really what was up, what this person was doing, and then what this person was feeling. However, it's important to remember a dream is just a dream. No matter what you see or think, and whether they have started to move away from one person and recognize that, they want something else, you could just be the flavor of the month. Or it's just another new obsession because this person is unbalanced. So I did another spell the other night for personal empowerment. Like I said, after the dream I had where I saw through someone's eyes and they seemed to have more self-control, I've decided if that is why this person was brought to me, and that is the lesson, that is the healing, and that is the seed that can be planted with the help of Astarte, okay? With the help of Astarte, that is the seed that is now planted for this person. And what they do with it from now on is up to them. But my job is done. This is certainly not a situation that I'm going to be asking to be led to continue to tap into or give my point of view to help another person. And I don't think she wants me to either. So after doing the spell for personal empowerment, it doesn't really matter whether someone has decided they're leaving one thing to go towards another, because all of this has been done against your will. Here's what happened. The triangle candles burned down. One of them burned down completely. And I just had jumbled up dreams. Just jumbled up dreams, which I think is the state of mind that this person is in. I'm being very honest with you now, okay? Listen to this. I was going through my morning rest and relaxation and watching videos and came across a black man. And I say black because this is African American. Oshun is my spiritual mother, and I find black people of African descent very, very spiritual. And he said, a love spell or a love binding, because I've been looking into this, is very, very serious. What he was stating was that it's basically like a marriage. What he said was, when someone does a love binding and they don't understand the rules of magic or the laws of the universe, and you create a love binding, which is like a marriage, it's a soul contract. And you're not only doing it against somebody's will, if you don't know them, it's against their will, and it's done without their knowledge or their consent. If it works, it's probably not going to last, because eventually you're going to meet the real person, and then if you are living together and you're living with a person, you're getting to know the real person. That person is getting to know you. You'd have to continually do workings on this person to make them feel like they'll absolve you of anything because they're in love. And this is the epitome of abuse. Not only is this ignorance of these people who do this binding themselves or binding somebody else to them, they overlook the fact that they're binding themselves to the other person. And in the astral, in the spiritual world, this becomes a soul contract. It's now been enacted on you without your knowledge or consent. And that's what hit me right between the eyes. Right between the lies. A personal empowerment spell worked on me this time. One of the things the psychic tarot reader had said was that a soul contract was rendered null and void because I had done something to push it away. I resisted. Now, as I began to resist more and more, I started to feel stronger. But at the very end of it, I was sick. This is what's so horrible about it. I got mentally stuck in a fog and physically nauseous. I kept feeling nauseous and kept having butterflies, and it was my solar plexus. How all of this was actually continually done, I now know, but you're going to have to find out on Patreon. You need to stay tuned. Okay? Because I have been led to know exactly what it is that you need to do in order to resist and push this away. And when you are feeling the pain, alchemize it. You need to learn how to alchemize your pain. And this is what I was led to do for many, many years. This is called the great work. And this is how I was able to go through my dark night of the soul and be gigantically healed from narcissistic parent and narcissistic husband, and coming out of fluctuating from codependency and adulthood into pure adulthood and meet my power animal and see myself in 3 parts, the triple goddess. So yeah, I've been at a high priestess level for a while, but I was just led to do a lot of other things until recently, and I think that was kind of the foundation for what I was going to be going through. I deleted a lot of those videos, even though I never knew this person, because I wasn't exactly sure what would happen. I recently made one video where I talked more about it, and somebody made an attempt to shame me and victimize me once again. And I realized I was just going to have to try to alchemize my pain even further. I had managed to stop them from watching me and tapping into my energy. So I needed to get on with studying and learning what was actually happening. Now, I had not 100% stopped, but I decided it just didn't have as much power over me anymore. Someone mentioned that my spirit guides and my ancestors and even the gods were watching over me, and they were involved in getting this person pushed away. And that part of it was kickback, but also their punishment. What happens is when a person does this binding, that if the strong-willed person resists, not only will the person who got binded feel like me, get stuck in the head, feel physically sick and depressed, going into a depression, it does affect your energy. I was really drained. I couldn't figure out why I was so exhausted. And when school started, I was sleeping 11 hours. I still couldn't get up. I couldn't go to work. I had no motivation. This is horrible. It's really, truly horrible. And it's not a punishment. It's just a side effect of the fact that your will has been manipulated to join with someone else. And I think I was really picking up on this person, because only a person who is like that, who's probably depressed and unhappy, would do that. But the other person starts to get kickback. There are signs and symptoms for that as well. They can start getting what's called being stuck in the head, depression, and brain freeze. And you can call it consequences of bad behavior or karma. But I truly believe that there can be consequences to bad behavior if you're willing to enact it. If you're willing to call for the justice and stand up for yourself and understand that you're a mirror and I'm a mirror. And that while this might have been brought to me for more than one reason, it wasn't because I was not strong and I was not well. A person who's not as strong-willed as me gets affected. And they truly get to think they are in love with someone they don't know. And they can be led to do things that I almost felt that I was going to do, which was go out and engage in conversation. And think about, what might lead from that as to having a helpmate. And this person was playing at being helpful, showing me different things, buying a bunch of groceries, flexing his muscles. And these are manipulations. And I've had to look at the fact that why in the world would someone be looking at an older woman except that she's got her own place and she's got her own car? And I said in one video, this is not the first time this has happened to me. They want what I have, and I'm not going to give it to them. But I had moments of weakness. I was drained. And until there was an incredibly, ridiculously horrible outburst out here that was directed towards me, did I do like Prue and project my thoughts, because I began to feel guilt and shame and confusion and all that stuff, and I recognized it. And I sat down and I wrote everything that had happened, and I enlisted the aid of some authority figures around here, and it was determined that this person had been violating rules of the community too many times. And I was really blessed, along with everything that they could come up with, I think, to offer this person another place. Now, they're still too close for my comfort, and even though they are not able to tap into my energy, there are things that are being done to try to get my attention. I believe to try to send me a message through light. Be aware. Okay? There are things that I have learned and that I have used in magic to send a message through light. And whatever the intention was, I'm not 100% sure, but I did step out of my front door at the moment this person was pulling in, who has not seen me for 2.5 months. And I think that was their goal. Although, you know, in their head, they might have expected me to maybe, again, initiate conversation. But with the other things that I've already seen that have been revealed to me about this person, I feel like it's really the end of it. Winter solstice is here. The full moon was on Monday, and full moon energy was extended onto Tuesday. And that's when I saw these headlights on the mailbox. And that was the end of it. Nothing came of it. And whether anything does try to come of this, I am prepared, because it had nothing to do with love or knowing me or talking to me or getting to know me or introducing themselves to me or asking me where I work or what I do on my time off and where I might like to go. So this person has a family member who I think made it a point to invite these two females that I've seen out here doing something. And this reinforced it even further. As I've seen what I saw in the candle wax, there is this other female. And I don't know if they're there all the time. It doesn't matter. They were there for the first 2 weeks and then they left. It doesn't matter. A lot of times with people, well, I'll tell you this on Patreon, okay? You're going to learn about narcissistic traits, narcissistic behaviors. Now, they're all slightly different. But the one thing that they have in common is that they don't let go. No matter what happens, no matter where you are, they don't let go. So, my goal now is to, again, sit down and make these videos for Patreon. And it's going to be like a course, all right? You need to be patient with the learning process so that you can recognize these toxic behaviors no matter where you are and figure out ways to deal with them or navigate them, whether it's at work or with family members. I've set up boundaries, I have surveillance cameras, but if I was to be approached, I have to be prepared. And while you don't want to tell an imbalanced person that they're imbalanced, you can tell someone you're not well. And even if they ask you for some type of help or knowledge, you're better off directing them to where they can go to get help. Because if they don't offer something to you or add to your life, what are you doing? And I get when you're single or an empty nester, you wonder how you're going to find someone. But I know how to speak to myself and call out to the universe. I've done it. My friend came over here today. I told her that it's been a while, but I had been making affirmations that I attract healthy, well-adjusted people that have the same types of interests and the same types of knowledge as me. And it's a very healthy, two-sided, balanced friendship. And I told her, you are a manifestation of that. And she said, oh, good, you know. I said, you're the only one so far. But having an imbalanced friend after I sold my mobile home, I learned more about addiction. And these strange behaviors where they contact you and the first thing out of their mouth is, I need a cigarette. Like, hello, how are you today? So, and then after I watched the Johnny Depp trial, I began to see that I had been helping someone that was just causing me all kinds of problems. And then, of course, blaming me and shaming me and accusing me of the very things that are confessions. So that's another thing that I've learned. And as I said, I've learned a great many things that I know are going to help many, many people, because we're not taught this. We live with things that make us sick and we don't know why. So I'm going to get ready to go to the gym. I think I'll just leave all my makeup on and my cubic zirconia earrings and show up happy and perky and put my hair up and do my row machine and my Smith machine and my assisted push-ups and sit down and make my list of videos that I'm going to make for Patreon for the new year. And I have plans for the new year as well. I'm calling on my ancestors and my guides to help me financially. And I'm focusing and believing once again that I can and will financially prosper. I don't exactly know how that's all going to happen, but if I can achieve my goal in the next 30 days or so and go get a younger Camry, I'll be able to go out and do more DoorDash on the weekends, because this car is on its last leg. So when a coal is thrown into the fire, whether it's a car that had, you paid for the car, there's been no monthly payments and the repairs have been minimal, and then all of a sudden they're maximal and you have a not so easy pay car loan every month, and you figure, okay, I'm earning credit, but I might as well go get a car with a monthly payment for what I'm paying right now. Then this is how you alchemize your pain, right? Life is full of change. That's the only thing that's constant. And guilting ourselves and shaming ourselves doesn't help us grow. We certainly don't need anybody doing that to us either. Losing my voice, that's my cue. I wish I could have people talk back and ask me questions, but I know we're all very busy. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here, is that if you don't understand all the different energies that are related to your spirituality and your thoughts, your psychism, who you are. I know there's people that kill themselves because they don't understand it. I've had people tell me on different times and different occasions, so-and-so just took their life. And they were in the Al-Anon group, or they had been abused by someone, or they were out of a narcissistic relationship and could never get over it because they don't understand what's going on before, during, and after. And there are symptoms that you can have physically during the day, or I recently learned in bed that I have had that are symptoms left over from narcissistic relationships. But I recognize immediately, and I change the way I'm thinking and feeling. So that's it for today. I really hope you'll join me as I continue to share my journey and teach what I have learned on my Patreon. Stay tuned. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend and Happy New Year. I know